Good evening, everybody. How's it going tonight? My name is Stuart Davis here on this channel, A Flawed Man of God. I'm a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. Haven't been to, man, I've really messed up this intro, guys. This is what happens when you realize you're running late, trying to get kids to sleep, and then you rush it. Misfire, folks. It's a misfire. Let's try this again. My name is Stuart Davis. I'm a flawed man of God. I'm a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor, uh, not a biblical scholar, haven't been to seminary. Not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm trying to do right now is just get through this intro, talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about Christianity, talk about the Bible, talk about what it's like being a Christian in the Word, right? Been a Christian my entire life, 39 years, non-denominational Protestant. I don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word every day, struggling to do it better and be better than I have been the past minute and a half I've been at this. Oh my goodness, guys! If you are looking at Christianity as a curiosity, as something to that you're interested in, maybe you're looking for more out of this existence than just what you are experiencing here on Earth, welcome to the show. I promise it's much better than how I'm doing right now. Not necessarily um, gonna gonna blow you away. It's gonna be better than what I've been doing. I don't know what's wrong with me today, but hopefully you can get something out of this. Hopefully this is an easy amateur primer on Christianity, something to help springboard you into a relationship with Christ. If you are already a Christian and you just enjoy Christian conversation, commentary, discussion, great. Glad to have you here too. This channel is partially for you, but wherever you land on the spectrum of denominations and not necessarily the autism spectrum. Guys, this is stuff powering through this. I want you to be in the chat. The chat is important. The chat is great. The chat is a whole lot better than I am right now. They can help you out. I apparently cannot. I might as well just end this show right now and just jump off the balcony, guys. That's it. That's enough of my intro. This is awful, guys. This is awful. Late. Show up late. Show up like seemingly unprepared for an intro that I do legitimately every night that I stream. Oh my goodness, guys. What has become of me? These are the easy things that I'm supposed to be able to do, and yet I'm not doing them. The fundamentals, right? The fundamentals. It's not a good time for me, apparently. And got to trim the old mustache as well. So, fellas, and any ladies listening, welcome. And my humble apologies on how I'm behaving on this stream. This is not my best work, guys. Nico, Porcupine, Alias, Blaine, thank you for being here for as long as you have been. Maybe y'all have already checked out. Look at had soccer practice for the son, stayed a little late, came home, started getting him, washed, go through his bedtime routine. Daughter's at church. In fact, I can hear them now. They just got home. Just got home from church. Anyway, so he's bathing, washing his tail because he's sweaty and smelly, as kids are, and talking about things with the father-in-law, and just want a quick snack. Get some shredded wheat, frosted shredded wheat. And this happens. I was like, yeah, I'll take a few more bites. And then it's like, oh, okay. And then getting my son up there, he's getting in the bed. He's got a little, you know, what do you call barricade, I guess, to keep him from rolling off of the bed because it's kind of a high bed for him. And that thing kind of snapped out of place, so I had to finagle that, get him settled, and yeah, came up here, got everything set up pretty quickly. It only takes me it takes me about a minute to put everything where it needs to be. And my head's not in the game, guys. Head was not in the game, but I was cognizant enough to know that I was struggling. I'm still struggling, guys. This is what I get for having a good stream last night. I felt like last night's stream was really good. I have them like streams where I'm like, man, everything kind of rolled, but and I had a great audience for it. A lot of you guys were tuned in. The audience is always great when you guys are here, but it's nice, but it's greater when the more of y'all are in here than normal. People participating, people putting their 2 cents worth in. It's great. And the stream went well. And to bring balance to things, apparently, I got to show you both sides, the good and the bad. But y'all are here. Y'all are here. So I've got tonight and tomorrow. That'll round out the streams for this week, and then we'll see you guys again on Monday. Tuesday, pretty much kind of decided. Tuesday is going to be a stream where I'm just going to send out a lot of invites for people who might be interested. Probably not, but they'll have an invite, and they can join me. And then we'll all grab some popcorn, and it'll be an interesting view on how things are going to end up in the midterms. I hear the president is giving a speech tonight on democracy, which is interesting considering we live in a republic, but that never stopped anybody in the past. So since I don't have my my act together very well, I'm not going to belabor the introductory time period off anymore. And man, this is bothering me. Like that rogue mustache hair, set of mustache hairs. I'm gonna have to trim that up. Beard is getting unruly, guys. Unruly. I think I've talked about that already. All right, so let's get into it. We're not gonna hang around and do all the pleasantries because I'm not making it pleasant for anybody. We're gonna get in here. We're gonna talk about David and Saul, and then we're gonna get out. It's not gonna be as long as this is gonna be a short stream, guys, as I've said before. All right, so when we left things last night, David was given a perfect opportunity to kill Saul, take him out, become the next king. In fact, that's what his troops were encouraging him to do. He doesn't, though. He cuts a piece of his robe off, kind of as a trophy, as a way of mocking him. But as soon as he does it, he feels bad about it, and he tells him, he goes, "I shouldn't have done this. This is Saul is wrong. Saul has been abandoned by God in many ways, but he's still anointed by God. He is still a guy. He's still a man, a king of Israel, who I have pledged my loyalty to. I should not be doing this." So Saul finishes doing his business and leaves the cave. And as he's leaving, David comes out and basically hails him and says, "Hey," prostrates himself on the ground and just be like, "Hey, guy, why are you chasing me? Why is this going on? I love you. I am loyal to you. I am your man. I am the guy in the corner for you. Stop this. Stop treating me like this. What are you doing to me? I could have killed you just now, but I didn't because I care about you." And Saul says, "I realize I've really screwed up. I'm very sorry. You will make a great king one day." And Saul went home. And then we talked about David, and apparently he's got a wife, but it's not the same wife he used to have, because Saul gave his daughter, who was David. Saul gave Michal, who was David's wife, to another man. Didn't cost him 99 either. But he's married to another lady. Then he meets another gal who's married to, let's face it, he's married to an asshole. He ends up getting struck down by God for being an asshole. And here we are now. David marries Abigail, the lady in question. So now he's got two women. Look, I like ladies. They're great, right? Lots of things that they can do that we can't. But when you multiply them in your house and in your marriage, you multiply your problems. And we have seen that this is biblical. This is biblically illustrated. Which is why, Blaine, Japanese need Jesus. With all these harem animes they come out with. It's what everybody wants, right? And it all looks great. We know the truth. It ain't it. That ain't it, Chief. What's going on, MR? How are you doing, MR? I'm glad you got here after the introduction, because, man, I really screwed it up. That in no way means that you should go back, rewind, and see how terribly I started the stream off. It was bad. Anyway, so that's where we're at. Main character rarely gets the girls in a harem anime. I don't know. I thought they did. And Mars like, oh no, now, yeah, it's okay. Revel in my amateur boomerang, just screwing the pooch. Ugh. All right, so that's where we're at. So we're going to start off things in a very interesting way. Chapter 26 starts off with David again spares Saul's life. Why is David sparing Saul's life again? They're not fighting with each other, right? They're not doing that anymore, right? Saul left David. He went home. Japanese need a third nuke to recorrect course back to the Empire days. There's a caustic way of joke to be made, but so I'm not going to make it. It's not helpful. It's not helpful. MR says, I'll do it as a Christian. Don't worry. Okay. Okay. That doesn't make me feel any better. All right. All right, folks. Let's get into this. Like I said, short stream tonight. MR. Now, what I will advise, if you didn't already catch it, last night's stream was really good. It's about an hour and a half, ran real good, and you didn't catch it. No stream on Friday. Next Tuesday is a midterm election stream. So bring your popcorn, bring your opinions, and bring your jokes. Bring your sense of humor. All right, chapter 26. David again spares Saul's life. The Ziphites went to Saul at Gibeah and said, is not David hiding on the hill in Hakilah, which faces Jeshimon? So Saul went down to the desert of Ziph with his 3,000 select Israelite troops to search there for David. Saul made his camp beside the road of the hill of Hakilah, facing Jeshimon, but David stayed in the wilderness. When he saw that David had followed him there, he sent out scouts and learned that Saul had definitely arrived. This is odd. This is odd because why is he doing this? Then David set out and went to the place where Saul had camped. Wait, hold on. David stayed in the wilderness. When he saw that Saul had followed him there, he sent out scouts and learned that Saul had definitely arrived. Then David set out and went to the place where Saul had camped. He saw where Saul and Abner, son of Ner, so odd. They have such long, hard to pronounce names, and then they have other people that just Ner. Abner, son of Ner, the commander of the army, had laid down. Saul was lying inside the camp with the army encamped around him. Then David asked Ahimelech the Hittite and Abishai, son of Jeruiah, Joab's brother, because, all those guys we know, who will go down in the camp with me to Saul? I'll go with you, Abishai said. So David and Abishai went to the army by night, and there was Saul lying asleep inside the camp with his spear stuck in the ground near his head. Abner and the soldiers were lying around him. Abishai said to David, "Today God has delivered your enemy into your hands. Now let me pin him to the ground with one thrust of the spear. I won't strike him twice." Which would be interesting because Saul can't hit anything with the spear, apparently. But David said to Abishai, "Don't destroy him. Who can lay a hand on the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? As surely as the Lord lives," he said, "the Lord himself will strike him, or his time will come and he will die, or he will go into battle and perish. But the Lord forbid that I should lay a hand on the Lord's anointed. Now get the spear and water jug that are near his head, and let's go." So this is David again, and he doesn't mess around too much. I guess they're just going in there causing mischief, or what? I mean, because you're not going into the heart of the camp to do reconnaissance. But that's where they find themselves, and there's Saul right there in the middle of 3,000 men, and they have their opportunity. David says, "It's not ours to take." God selected him. After the Israelites begged for a king, God selected him. It is not my place to kill him. It's not anybody's place to kill him. If he dies in battle, that's on somebody else. But it ain't going to be on me. We can see why David is a man that God favors. Because what does God love? Us, of course. He loves goodness, wholesomeness, the things that he has set down. He loves obedience. Loves obedience. So David took the spear and the water jug near Saul's head, and they left. No one saw or knew about it, nor did anyone wake up. They were all sleeping because the Lord had put them into a deep sleep. Then David crossed over to the other side and stood on the top of the hill some distance away. There was a wide space between them. He called out to the army and to Abner, son of Ner, "Aren't you going to answer me, Abner?" Abner replied, "Who are you that calls to the king?" David said, "You're a man, aren't you? And who is like you in Israel? Why didn't you guard your lord the king? Someone came to destroy your lord the king. What you have done is not good. As surely as the Lord lives, you and your men must die, because you did not guard your master, the Lord's anointed. Look around you. Where are the king's spear and water jug that were near his head?" Saul recognized David's voice and said, "Is that your voice, David, my son?" And David replied, "Yes, it is, my lord the king." And he added, "Why is my lord pursuing his servant? What have I done? And what wrong am I guilty of? Now let my lord the king listen to his servant's words. If the Lord has if the Lord has incited you against me, then may he accept an offering. If, however, people have done it, may they be cursed before the Lord. They have driven me today from my share in the Lord's inheritance and have said, go, serve other gods. Now, do not let my blood fall to the ground far from the presence of the Lord. The king of Israel has come out to look for a flea as one hunts a partridge in the mountains. I'm sure that's an idiom, some sort of Israelite idiom. But he's basically saying, why are you coming out here to look for someone as insignificant as me? And why are you driving me away? I've done nothing to you. I am an Israelite. I am part of God's chosen people. There is no reason for me not to be taking my part of the promised land. And so I'm going to go to make an offering. Then Saul said, I have sinned. Come back, David, my son. Because you considered my life precious today, I will not try to harm you again. Surely I have acted like a fool and have been terribly wrong. Here's the king's spear, David answered. Let one of your young men come over and get it. The Lord rewards everyone for their righteousness and faithfulness. True. The Lord delivered you into my hands today, but I would not lay a hand on the Lord's anointed. As surely as I valued your life today, so may the Lord value my life and deliver me from all trouble. Then Saul said to David, May you be blessed, David, my son. You will do great things and surely triumph. So David went on his way, and Saul returned home. So this is weird. This is weird. David makes a good point. God rewards everyone for righteousness and faithfulness. This is not prosperity gospel. This is not saying that you're going to be enjoying success in worldly things. But you can be sure that the actions and the spirit in which you do things, righteousness, in pursuing righteousness and faithfulness, will bring God all sorts of joy. But I think David knows that Saul is not a man to be trusted. So, what's the relation between Saul and David? All right, MR. So brief, because I know you've missed a few of these. Just kind of a brief thing. Israel asks for a king. God gives him Saul. Saul's a nice enough guy, kind of a bumpkin, but tall, dashing, kind of humble, gets in there and doesn't make the best of decisions. And I think that's part of what God's doing. So God says, hey, things aren't looking good in Israel. We don't have a great king. So I'm going to select another guy. He doesn't tell really anybody other than Samuel about this. The relationship between David and Saul is that David was selected. He's not related by blood to Saul, but he's anointed by Samuel, kind of away from everybody else. He's pretty much going to be the next ruler. Not anybody else really knows that yet. And Saul starts getting tormented by demons. Well, not demons. Saul starts getting tormented out at the Lord's behest by spirits, and only music can calm them. And David plays very good music. So David enters Saul's court and ends up killing Goliath, ends up becoming best friends with Saul's son, ends up marrying Saul's daughter. So he is a member of the court, then becomes even closer. And basically, he ends up being Saul's bodyguard, chief of the guard, right? But David, in all the ways that Saul is liked, right, in, from his youth and early reign and early rule, David is overshadowing all of that. He's a warrior. He's a musician. He's good looking. He is righteousness. Like, he is full of great just righteous lines, especially like going back and reading how David is talking when he confronts Goliath. It's just amazing. He is so faithful and so obedient. The Lord is with him. He's anointed. He's just doing all the good things. And by that time, Saul has made enough mistakes that he has lost the Lord's blessing, and the Lord's kind of abandoned him. He kind of knows it. He kind of knows it because Samuel told him that the Lord said, "Hey, tell Saul this." So he knows it, and he sees another guy doing all the things that he could be doing, that he should be doing, but isn't doing. And so he's paranoid about him. He's half mad because he's being tormented by these spirits. And I think there's a lot of guilt in there, because instead of trying to live vicariously through David, or using David as a someone kind of to look up to from a faithfulness standpoint, Saul just digs his hole in deeper. But David still is kind of special to Saul. He's close. They're close to each other, right? And Saul is not a father to David, but he's a father figure. He's an older male mentor. So there's that relationship there. But no, there's no actual blood relationship. In fact, they're not even legally. I don't know if they're even legally related anymore, because when Saul chases David off, he gives his daughter that was married to David to someone else. And now David's got 2 more wives now. So David leaves. And he knows Saul's coming back. Saul's going to come for him, because as long as he's alive, and as long as he is running around, Saul knows that he's a liability. Well, that Saul knows that he's a threat to his rule. All right, chapter 27 is pretty short. Welcome, Dresden. Glad to have you here. You never hear much about Saul as a relative layman in the Bible. Interesting guy. Saul is incredibly interesting. And I think that because, look, David's a big guy in the Bible, right? And especially in the Old Testament, he's huge, right? And Jesus' lineage comes through David. But I think a lot of people forget. A lot of us lay people forget about 1 Samuel. So we were talking about this last night. Samuel's the last judge of Israel. Holy man, righteous man. But his kids are screw-ups and corrupted. And they've had some issues. Israel's had some behavioral issues, to be sure. But he said they asked for a king. And Samuel tells that to God, and God's like, you already got a king. We get all that. This is Better Call Saul. We talk. My favorite type of government is kind of what they've got going on in Judges. Yeah, they're screwing up, but there's always somebody there to rally them and come bring them back, and they are God's champion. And they only really need to be there long enough to get things on the right track. And they're judging based off of God's law. Well, so the Israelites asked for a king. God says, no, you don't want a king. This is why you don't want a king, because there's going to be all this extra layer of government, and instead of you having basically an intermediary person, like a chief judge among all the other elders who are also judging things, just trying to keep society in place. Now you're going to have this extra layer of authoritarian rule, and you're not going to like it. No, give us one. All the other people living, all the other peoples and all the nations around us, noticeably, none of the other places are the promised land, and none of them are blessed by God. But all the other kingdoms have kings. We need a king. So finally, God says, "Okay, here you go." And Saul to me is quintessential. Is pretty much God giving them. This is what you're generally gonna get, and I'm gonna give you the best, one of the better case scenarios. You're gonna get a good guy, and you're gonna see how being king kind of corrupts him, and that's exactly what happens. And that's why I think Saul's a sad tale of a guy who feels it really seems like he's either easily corrupted or he's just in over his head. And I think it's a little bit of both. And that's why I said Saul is a great kind of study, because he's probably closer to what all of us would be if we were put into those shoes. How do we act? Oh, yeah, it's great to think that we'd be just like David. And it might be back then that it would be easier to be David than it would be today. But absolute power corrupts absolutely. And Saul's an average man, um, with a few extraordinary blessings as far as height, good looks, and a bit of humility, but not enough. And I think what ultimately the real problem with Saul is not necessarily the mistakes he makes, but his lack of ability to back up and try to figure out what the problem is and humble himself. We don't see him really putting himself in sackcloth or pulling his hair out or laying down on the ground and praying to God and asking for forgiveness. We just see him kind of give up, just give in to the guy that he is. I guess I'm just going to be this way. And I think a lot of us, in many ways, when we deal with our sins, take that approach. I take it sometimes where, this is just who I am. I know it's wrong and I don't want to do it, but it feels like it's at the core of my being, right? I'm argumentative. I'm sarcastic. Okay. I get ticked off when I see people doing things that I think is stupid or saying things that I think are stupid, and I respond accordingly. Um, that doesn't make it that doesn't make it right at all. And I recognize that it's not right. But sometimes I'm just like, well, you're just gonna have to put up with me, and that's wrong. And that's wrong. And that's basically what Saul does. And that's how Saul basically makes the entire identity of his reign. So, yeah, no, MR. I mean, look, Saul's a great read, and he's in here a lot. Like he's not in there as long as David, but we see more from Saul than we see from Daniel, from maybe as much as Joseph, maybe more than Joseph. He's a big part of the Old Testament. He's got more than 15 minutes of fame, right? He's not Jonah. He's not Job. They've got their own books, but they're not in there as long as Saul's in the game. And and there it is. Saul is the very first king of Israel. The very first. So, we don't talk much about Saul. We don't talk much about the Old Testament in general in church, except for certain pieces. But there's so much that's going on here. That's why I said this is we're reading through probably one of the richest narratives of the Bible. There's so much to get out of here. And the Bible is constantly teaching us. It's not just giving us the history of Christianity. It's not just giving us the foreshadowing of Christ, but it's giving us an experience with um, examples, people living examples for us to take away. This is what people did right, and this is what people did wrong. And then your phone died. Ah, Mr. Daggone it! I was doing well. Catch it on the replay. All right, but to be in, I'm with you, and we've been listening for the most part since we've been going through First Samuel. One of we've been watching also Nico's reaction to a lot of all the stuff that we're talking about. Because at first he's like, man, I kind of feel sorry for Saul. And to the point where Saul's acting like an ass. Yeah, he put a whole town to the sword because he thought that they might have been a little bit sarcastic to him and maybe a little bit disrespectful. Like one guy there or a couple of those folks. Okay. It's hard to like Saul now. At this point in the Bible. You don't trust him. You don't trust him. You know he's done great evil. He doesn't seem to have any interest in getting on God's good side, getting back on God's good side. But he's not a true villain in the sense that we're going to see with the other kings of Israel. But he ain't doing it right. David among the Philistines. But David thought to himself, one of these days I will be destroyed by the hand of Saul. You think? The best thing I can do is to escape to the land of the Philistines. Then Saul will give up searching for me anywhere in Israel, and I will slip out of his hand. Yeah, let's just go in the Philistine and live with the Philistines, right? I'm sure they don't have any reason to dislike me. So David and the 600 men with him, it's not just me. I'm not just going to live with the Philistines. I'm going to live with the Philistines along with this small army I have. David and the 600 men with him and left and went over to Achish, son of Maok, king of Gath. David and his men settled in Gath with Achish. Each man had a family with him, and David had his 2 wives, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail of Carmel, the widow of Nabal. When Saul was told that David had fled to Gath, he no longer searched for him. Yeah, there you go. So I was like, yep, not my problem anymore. He's not going to threaten me over there with the Philistines. He's going to live with them heathens, right? Then David said to Achish, if I found favor in your eyes, let a place be assigned to me in one of the country towns, that I may live there. Why should your servant live in the royal city with you? So on that day, Achish gave him Ziklag, and it belonged to the kings of Judah ever since. David lived in Philistine territory a year and 4 months. Now David and his men went up and raided the Geshurites, the Girzites, and the Amalekites. From ancient times, these people had lived in the land extending to Shur and Egypt. Whenever David attacked an area, he did not leave a man or woman alive, but took sheep and cattle, donkeys and camels and clothes. Then he returned to Achish. When Achish asked, where did you go raiding today? David would say, against the Negev of Judah, or against the Negev of Jeremiel, or against the Negev of the Kenites. He did not leave a man or woman alive to be brought to Gath, for he thought they might inform on us and say, this is what David did. And such was his practice as long as he lived in Philistine territory. Achish trusted David and said to himself, he has become so obnoxious to his people, the Israelites, that he will be my servant for life. So David goes to live in Philistine and just starts knocking them out. Not the ones that he's living with, but the ones he's living around. You might find this morally questionable. He's putting entire towns to the sword. We're talking about some serious massacres here. But if we go back to Joshua and we listen to what God's commands are to the Israelites, these folks were supposed to be put to the sword from the get-go. So I'll leave it to you guys to decide whether David did the right thing or not. Was there a statute of limitations on that command? Was there a sunset clause on that command? I don't know. I don't think so. It's not. If it is, it's not mentioned in the Bible. And but when he goes back and he's obviously getting riches from these places, at least in the form of livestock. H just asked, "Where'd you go?" He said, "Oh yeah, I went to go. I've been fighting the Israelites, basically, and the Judeans." And none's the wiser. David's clever. David is clever. All right, everybody. Nice little read through. And I'm glad things settled down for me after quite a rough start. Oh well. All right, guys. I got nothing else for tonight, and apparently I need to collect myself so that I can come back better next time for tomorrow's stream, and round out the week of streaming on a high note. So with that said, MR, welcome back to the chat. Alias, Dresden, Nico, Blaine, Porcupine, all you guys. Glad you tuned in. Glad to see you guys in the chat, giving me your insights. MR, like I said, always great. Now I'm going to go laugh godly at the beginning of this. It's a train wreck. All right, you guys. So let's let MR go back and laugh at me. Alias, till tomorrow, Lord willing, amen. You guys have a wonderful rest of the evening, and Lord willing, we'll see each other tomorrow. All right. With that said, everybody have a very good night, and God bless.